To build an Enthusiast Garage, you have to start somewhere, and I'm a huge fan of performance cars in the $5,000 price range. Honestly, dynamically, things don't come much better in the $5,000 price point than a Mazda Miata. It's a great starter car. It's a great performance car. And I think for a lot of people, they sort of write them off because they're small or because there's an association with a girl's car, but go to any track day and you're gonna see tons of Miatas hitting the track, and they run really competitive times. When Mazda launched the MX5, I feel like I was about 12 years old, because I remember going to the automotive show and sitting in one of these cars. And I remember thinking how nice it was. All the interior materials were really, really stout, really nicely put together. Now, these cars now have many years on them, and they've aged really nicely. This is a first-gen NA Miata. This car's got 93,000 miles on it. It feels great. It goes around corners great.
And like so many performance cars across the ages, it's a blank slate on which you can put your identity. You can build the car the way you want. Track car, weekend cruiser, stanced car. Prepping for this episode, I drove a normally aspirated car and a turboed car with adjustable suspension. A Miata allows your personality to shine through.
I think that for any enthusiast, whether it's your 15th car or whether it's your very first car, you could do really well with a Miata. Partly because it's a car that you can use for a lot of different things. I even used my Miata like a pickup truck. I'd put the top down and throw some lumber in it. I mean, they're pretty versatile, and for a first car, I think it's almost unbeatable. You know, pretty much your options are GTI or Miata. Both are dynamically going to teach you a lot about what makes a great car, what makes a great driver's car. And a Miata, there's just a purity to it. It's very lightweight, it's very well put together, and they're pretty stunningly reliable. Small as these cars may seem, they actually have a ton of interior space. I'm 6'2" and several pounds. And I'm reasonably sure that you can fit in one of these as well. So if you haven't driven a Miata because you're thinking they're too small, think again.
Now let's talk about the generations. The first generation NA Miata came with either a 1.6 or a 1.8 liter engine and weighs under 1,000 kilograms, around 2,000 pounds. I think their diminutive size is absolutely perfect, and I love the NA. The NB gained a little bit of weight, added a little bit of size, and if I'm honest, I really miss the pop-up headlights, but they're still pretty attractive cars. In the States, you can get it with a 1.8 liter normally aspirated or a Mazda Speed 1.8 liter turbocharged engine. The NC gained a little bit more weight, but boy does it look mean. It also came with a more powerful 2-liter engine, and evolution naturally breeds higher skid pad numbers and performance. The ND finally brought us back to losing weight. The car looks more than a little bit like an F-Type Jaguar, is offered with a 1.5 or 2-liter engine, and really gets back to the roots of the NA. Lightweight, go for broke. In the 80s, it was commonplace to find a car that had a curb weight like 1,800 pounds. Once we got to the 90s, and even now, very rarely does a manufacturer take sports car manufacturing truly seriously. And that's one thing that's beautiful about the Miata, is it truly gives you that sports car lightweight package. Being so lightweight, just adding a little bit of horsepower to one of these things radically changes its demeanor.
I just love the purity of these cars. You know, the shifter feels great, and I'm a big stickler for shifter feel. You know, stickler, stick shift, that was kind of funny, right? Fun? I don't know. But like the S2000 is another car that has just an amazing shift. And it's funny because so many cars that are really great cars are let down by just mediocre shift quality. And it's one of the things that Miata, at such an inexpensive price point, gets right. Steering feel is one place where the Miata excels. It telegraphs everything that's going on, and even with the lightest touch on the steering wheel, the car changes trajectory and lets you know what's going on. This particular car is fitted with a pretty heavy-duty, stout turbo kit, and this one's actually running about 10-11 pounds of boost, real trick fuel setup, and we're about to find out just how boosty it is. And my guess is fairly boosted. Drives great. I mean, it's definitely one of those things where this is a lot of car for not a lot of money. I mean, a lot of people ask me, what should I get, you know, for $5 or $6 grand? And really nice Miatas are $5 or $6 grand. Certainly, you know, you're going to spend money to make it your own car. You know, this one has the roll cage and the turbo kit. You know, that's not all necessary. And this car is just an absolute riot the way it is. I do recommend that you get one with a limited slip differential. I've driven both, and the ones with the LSD are just night and day, far and away better driving experience, even just in a daily, you know, sort of day-to-day type of thing. And they allow you to, at very low speeds, ride the slide. If you're trying to learn, you know, oh, I want to drift or whatever, Miata with the limited slip differential is a great car to learn to really drive and to learn to really understand how to extract the most out of a car.
You know, a really great driver's car will have you looking for friends to go driving with. Looking forward to a Saturday when you can just go out and carve a canyon. This car really can hang with some quick cars. That's why I brought this 997 Turbo and my Mini Cooper on this shoot. And our second annual Tail of the Dragon run is coming up. It's a great opportunity to drive with real enthusiasts. June 22nd to the 24th, we're doing the Tail of the Dragon. Not only are we doing the Tail of the Dragon, but we're including the Blue Ridge Parkway and 2 days and 2 nights at the Biltmore. We're taking some photographers down, and they're allowing us to photograph all of our cars on site in front of the Biltmore estate. Now this drive we're doing something a little bit special. We're promoting it with Aficionados Club and with Miata merch. Mason here came all the way from Pittsburgh to help us promote this trip. Mason, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into cars? Tell me the story.
My dad has always kind of been into cars. We've owned German vehicles since I've been growing up, and my first car was a 97 Audi Cabriolet. Purchased this Miata actually as a daily, and turned out to be a project track car.
So I actually met Mason through a group called Miata Merch. They're some of my best friends. Aaron and Kristen really have a passion for Miatas, but I think even more than that, have a passion for cars and a passion for drivers. They've decided to sponsor this tour as well. One of the groups that decided to co-sponsor this event is Aficionados Club. They're local here to Columbus, Ohio, and the guy that runs that club is named Major John, and he's right here. So John, you did Tail of the Dragon and Biltmore with us last year.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that. That was your first time doing Tail of the Dragon, right?
That was my first time. I didn't know what to expect. It was something that was beautiful, the scenery, the uniqueness, the driving aspect.
Now, the Biltmore estate, I'd never been there before. Have you been there before?
I had not been there before, but I knew it was one of America's greatest homes. And actually the drive there is like the epitome. With the drive you can instill in yourself, the things that you can achieve. And it's a perfect example.
Wow, you know, that was not scripted. I just want everyone to know. John comes up with that stuff off the cuff all the time. It's ridiculous. So as I said from the start, the Miata is a true performance car. Go to any track day, go to an autocross. They're fantastic cars, and it's definitely a gateway drug of sorts. It definitely will get you into the car hobby. If you've never driven a Miata, I would encourage you to do so. You know, for me, it couldn't be the only car in my garage, but it definitely has always been a car in my garage. You know, for a long time, I've always had a Miata around. It's the kind of car that, in any company, sort of makes sense. You can show up to a Porsche meet in a turboed Miata, people will be interested in it. You could show up to a classic car meet in a Miata, and it would still be relevant. You know, the first generation owes so much to the Lotus Salon, and I think to a great extent, the car really echoes that spirit. I dig it. I think you will too.